Trauma in Afghanistan, turmoil in the Gulf, and tension in Hong Kong. Security crises haven't stopped because of the coronavirus pandemic. Instead, some powers are accused of using the COVID-19 distraction to their own advantage.
Anyone who wants to get on with things without the West noticing will be exploiting this opportunity.
Let's take Afghanistan. The United States signed a peace deal with arch-foe the Taliban in Qatar in February, just as coronavirus was infecting the world. This should have been a historic moment of harmony after almost 2 decades of war.
That withdrawal means that our men and women in uniform will incur fewer risks, our financial burden will be eased, and our brave troops will return home. This is a hopeful moment.
But the ink had barely dried before attacks on US-backed Afghan forces ramped up again. Terror for civilians too. Even babies aren't safe. The targeting of a maternity ward in Kabul, a new and brutal low.
What's your name?
Here, special forces rescuing a group of medics holed up in a safe room.
What's your name?
Coronavirus makes it harder for journalists to report on other crises. I'm stuck in the UK on lockdown. But violence in places like Afghanistan shouldn't be forgotten. The problem there is political as well. The peace deal was supposed to trigger dialogue between Afghan politicians and the Taliban insurgents they'd been fighting. But the government has been consumed by infighting ever since contested elections last year.
Officials finally agreed a power-sharing deal in May, unblocking an obstacle to the Taliban talks. Expectations for a breakthrough still low. Despite the uncertainty, US forces have reduced in numbers. Expect violence in Afghanistan to do the opposite. Before coronavirus, this threatened to be the defining crisis of 2020. Remember how the year started with the United States and Iran on the brink of war? It was triggered by an Iranian-backed militia targeting US-led coalition forces in Iraq, and escalated when the United States killed top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Cue an outpouring of grief, rage, and then this Iranian missile strike against US troops. No soldier was killed. Instead, Iran accidentally shot down a Ukrainian passenger jet as its air defences braced for a US counterattack.
Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world.
In the end, Donald Trump refrained, but the mutual animosity is as combustible as ever. It's been the case since President Trump tore up a nuclear deal with Iran in 2018. He then reimposed sanctions, targeting Tehran's oil, banking and transport sectors. The move was opposed by key allies, including the UK, and it prompted spiralling tensions in the Gulf. Tanker attacks, a US spy plane shot down, a Saudi oil refinery ablaze.
Even coronavirus, which has hit both countries hard, hasn't changed the fundamentals. Iran launched a military satellite using ballistic missile technology in April, a highly provocative move. Expect more fireworks in October, just weeks before the US elections.
It's when a UN arms embargo on Iran expires. The US is going all out for an extension.
The problem lies with the fact that Russia and China are unlikely to go along, as of right now, with any American effort to extend the arms embargo. So this could result in a showdown at the United Nations Security Council, where one of the two countries could obstruct an American resolution to extend the arms embargo.
Another part of the world to watch is Hong Kong. Pro-democracy protests here dominated headlines before the pandemic. Leading activists have since been arrested. But there's new anger after Beijing passed a security law for the former British territory.
China has been looking for ways for a long time to crack down on the pro-democracy, pro-human rights movements in Hong Kong. And it seems to be exploiting the fact that West's attention is elsewhere to round up pro-democracy supporters, arrest them, to put them on trial.
Trouble too in the South China Sea. Ownership of territory in these waters has been fiercely contested for centuries. It matters because of natural resources and for control of important shipping lanes. China claims what it defines as a 9-dash line, including the Paracel and Spratly Islands. Not so say neighbours Vietnam and the Philippines.
The United States accuses China of using the coronavirus distraction to tighten its grip. Beijing says that's nonsense, but US warships are increasingly testing their freedom to manoeuvre. Provocative action against an ever more confident opponent.
Coronavirus is of course a crisis for everyone, but world leaders ignore these other major challenges at their peril.